Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to go ahead and get this regularly scheduled commission meeting of September 13th started because we have a lengthy agenda. Before I ask for an approval of the agenda, I want to make sure that anyone in the audience who's here to speak to the application for development on 337 is aware that that item has been pulled. It's not going to be on tonight's agenda. So if you're here to talk about 337, it will not be on tonight's agenda. You will get re-noticed when it comes back on the agenda. And I had one more thing that went right out of my head. And the P&Z is also not, so if you're a P&Z applicant and you're here to see about your applicant, we did not get that on tonight's agenda because we have the budgets, all that stuff. So that will be on the next commission agenda. So with that, do I have an approval of the agenda as it has been published?
Second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Mazon, a second from Commissioner Barton. Any questions or comments on the motion on the floor from the dais? Hearing none. Any comments or questions from the public on the motion on the floor, which is just to approve the agenda as it has been published? And if you need an agenda, there's some at by the door in the back. Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. We'd like to welcome Pastor Kenyatta Feathers from the Temple Church of God in Christ to the podium to give tonight's invocation. Naeem, will you check and make sure that that green light, sometimes if you've never done it before, it's a little hard to press. Welcome, sir. Thank you. And if you would, please rise for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance to follow. Pastor.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioner, Manager. Father, we thank you for this night. Thank you for this opportunity. God of justice and mercy, thank you for the gift of life and the opportunity to serve the people of our city. Help us to act with character and conviction. Help us to listen with understanding and goodwill. Help us to speak with charity and restraint. Give us the spirit of service. Remember us that we are stewards of your authority. Guide us to be leaders, your people, that your people need. Help us to see humanity and dignity of those who humanity needs most, and treat all people, all persons, no matter how weak or poor, with the reverence and creation that they deserve in God. And finally, Father, renew us with the strength of your presence and the joy of helping to build a community worthy of the human person. We ask these things in your glorious Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are we doing this now? Before I left the dais, I asked the Opioid Task Force to please come to the podium, give the presentation tonight. Thank you. It was on the way. If I could get the Opioid Task Force to just come join me here at the podium. I believe that you all have some material in your backup, and it's my pleasure to be able to speak tonight on behalf of the Newberry Opioid Task Force. For the new commissioners who were on the dais about 3 years ago, I had a student who died from an overdose. And about 6 months after that, I sat down with a woman who ran the Health Promotions and Wellness group out of Alachua County, and she showed me some data that showed Alachua County had the second highest rate of opioid addiction among adolescents in the state of Florida. We have the highest rate of adolescent suicide in the state of Florida. And she said she had sat down with elected officials all across the county and she could not get anyone's attention. I said, well, you've got mine. I came to this board and I asked for help. I said, I don't know what to do here. I don't know what the right thing to do is. I don't know the solution, but I know that we have people in this community, and they're standing here with me, that can help us figure that out. So about 2 years ago, you created the Newberry Opioid Task Force, and you charged them with addressing this crisis that the past two presidents have called an epidemic and a crisis in our country. About a year ago, we got shut down like everybody else in our plans, but we created a mission statement, and our mission statement is 100% focused on prevention of addiction. The cure, the rehab rates for those once they are addicted they're just dismal. They're just tough to look at. Our focus has to be on getting to children before they get addicted. The problem is that the studies show that children are beginning to experiment with adolescence in fifth grade. Fifth grade. That's so young that most parents are not comfortable with us talking to them about opioids. That led us to a program called RAD for Kids. The program is in your backup material. It's a data-tested and time-proven program. It's a 2-year program targeted at elementary kids that holistically approaches the child and teaches the child how to recognize dangerous situations and how to say no, how to tell the difference of tattletaling and when they need to get an adult to get involved, when they need to go and find help. So RAD for Kids is a program that runs through the Alachua County Sheriff's Office. The Alachua County Sheriff's Office is very familiar with this. They're very much in favor of this program. And what we want to do is turn Newberry Elementary School into a RAD for Kids school. If you start in first grade, it skips a year, so you do first grade and third grade. If you start in second grade, it's second grade and fourth grade. But by the time everyone graduates Newberry Elementary School, they would graduate through this program, and they'd be empowered to say no, they'd be empowered to recognize problems, they'd be empowered to recognize dangers. So we're here tonight. This board has worked really hard to privately fund these endeavors. But we, the city of Newberry, is receiving $3.1 million in the American Relief funds, and we're asking you tonight for 0.3% of that. It says in the ARPA money that one of the things that both the current president and the past president want to be done with this money is to address mental health needs and the opioid crisis. So we're here tonight to ask for $15,000, 0.3% of the entire funds that we're getting. It's going to stay here in the city of Newberry because since the Opioid Task Force is a duly elected committee of the city commission, the city is our accountant. The money will stay here until it goes directly to ASO to pay for these trainers who will be trained to work in our elementary school. Our goal is $15,000 gets us 20 trainers. That's going to train enough people to do 5 elementary schools, which is the donut in Alachua County. As you and I both know, the money generally goes to Gainesville and has a hard time trickling out this way. What we'd like to do is get the trainers to go into the schools, and then we just got on the last city's agenda. We're going to go in front of every single city in the donut, and we're going to ask them for money to help raise awareness and to campaign to make sure that everyone in Alachua County knows that we are living through this pandemic as well, and that we have the ability to fight it. So our hope is to start here at home with the board that created this, that set us on this mission, and then to take this success, hopefully, to those other cities and ask them for money as well so that we can ensure that RAD is a perpetual program. One of the problems with RAD is that you train the folks and then teachers have a way of moving around and they lose their trainers, and so then you lose your status as a RAD for Kids school. We want to make sure that we have enough money that we keep these schools with trainers. The trainers do not have to be teachers. In fact, RAD is very clear that they think some of them should be teachers, but some of them should be coaches, custodians, people in the community that care about this issue, that want to get into the school and make a difference. So that's, I know you got a long agenda tonight, we want to keep it short and sweet, but that's what we're here tonight for, to ask you to set aside $15,000 out of that ARPA money, leave it in the city of Newberry. As soon as we work it out, the check would go to Alachua County Sheriff's Office. If this board dissipates, dissolves, falls apart, doesn't fall through, that money would simply revert back to your ARPA funds. So that's my ask here tonight. That's what we would like to do. It's the mission we believe you've set us to accomplish, and we think this is the way to go about it.
I think it's outstanding.
Me too.
I move to approve. That's what we
Second
need.
that. Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to let these guys so I can go back up and chair the meeting. Okay, what I would ask is if the commission is in favor of what the Opioid Task Force says. Will you turn that one off now? If the commission is in favor of what the Opioid Task Force is requesting, there'll be an appropriate moment in the budget script for us to make an amendment to the budget for that $15,000. If I could just get a head nod right now so the committee knows that they have been successful tonight. So I got 1, 2, 3. I got a unanimous head nod. So we want to thank, and Mark, he snuck in behind me there. See, I didn't even.
Stuck out of Santa Fe College.
Folks, if you would just step up to the mic and introduce yourselves to the board. And, the board knows most of you.
Thank you so much. This is a huge start for this program, and we can't wait to approach the other cities to come behind you and do the same thing. I'm Joy Glanzer, Chair of the Newberry Opioid Task Force, and I'm very grateful for this night. Thank you.
Thank you, Joy.
Mark Modis, work for Glen Publications. I also teach over at Santa Fe College. Moved up here about, it's been 5 years. I must say Newberry's been great for the family. Believe it or not, when we're in Broward County, I worked at Broward County School District. My kids, one of the first things said when they came here to Newberry was, Dad, I was able to use our lockers in our school. And I was like, and it shows you how oblivious I was. And I was like, well, why couldn't you use them in Broward County? Well, that's where all the kids had all the drugs and the weapons and stuff. And so when I see here what we're trying to do for our kids, and not only just in Newberry, but all the cities out there, I think it's going to be a beautiful thing. So I really appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
I'm Charlene Cook, and I'm a member of the community, and I think this program will succeed because we're hitting the children at such a young age. Once a child or a young person experiences a drug, whether it's marijuana, heroin, an opioid, it's too late. So we've got to get to them first and make them aware of the seriousness of what they're dealing with. And I think this will work if we can, especially if we can start it very young. Thank you for your approval. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor and Chair, my name is Naeem Urchid. I'm Vice Chair of the Opioid Task Force, and I am extremely grateful to be part of it. I'm extremely grateful to be part of the city and this community. I've been reaching out to all these businesses to help us for our October 23rd kickoff, and something opened my eyes that I never thought would be open as I'm asking these businesses to open up their hearts to help with this. So many people are telling me that they have their own personal experience with opioid addictions, whether it's family or immediately dealing with them. And they're like, we don't tell this to anybody because it's such a hard thing to talk about. And that's why our motto for the city of Newberry that we came up with is from silence to solutions, because we gotta stop pushing this thing down, and you guys are really helping us get that leverage. So thank you very much.
Thank you all for all the work that you've put in for the past 2.5 years as a volunteer board. And I'm excited about the next chapter here and what we're going to accomplish, because I know your dedication and I know what you guys can do when you put your minds to it. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Absolutely. Okay, well, and thank you, Newberry Commission. From the bottom of my heart, I appreciate you guys. Okay, I would like to move on to proclaim October 3rd through 9th, 2021 Public Power Week in Newberry. And Mike, you got a little, tell us how wonderful Power Week is.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you know, I always love an opportunity to get up and speak about the troops, the team we have working here in Newberry. This week, we're going to be talking about public powers. You know, we're one of 34 municipalities in the state of Florida that own and operate our own electric distribution system. It's a small group, but very proud to be part of public power. And this year we'll be celebrating Public Power Week on October 3rd through the 9th. I apologize that our Assistant City Manager, Jamie Jones, isn't here to make the presentation. He put in a lot of hours late last evening on an issue, and I thought it would be best if he got home and got some rest, and that I might try to substitute for him. So just an outline of the things that we're going to be discussing as we go through this. You've seen this presentation, so I won't belabor it. There shows our electric service territory. There are actually 4 different service providers within Newberry's vast 58 square miles of land mass. The majority of that is Clay Electric, but we have about 5 square miles carved out dead in the center. We also share our territory with Central Florida Electric, and 2 customers are on Duke Power. So just offering some statistics about what we do. We are just shy of 2,000 residential customers, and I like to see that non-residential element is growing. That seems to be one of the faster growing segments, so we're starting to pick up more non-residential customers to kind of balance out our load. The reason that we like the non-residential, their load profile always looks the same. They hot afternoon, everybody's got their AC on, and it makes our load data look bad. And in the wintertime, everybody heats up in the morning when they wake up, and so we get some non-residential in there. They have different load profiles, and it balances us out, makes better rates for everybody. So just a little bit of history. The Newberry's electric utility was established in 1910, and a little known fact about why cities, and particularly small cities, get in the utility business. It wasn't because we had a burning itch to get in the electric utility business. It was that Newberry was so small that it wasn't profitable for privately held, independent operated utilities to start. And so if the citizens of Newberry wanted to have power and electricity, they took it upon themselves, and it's just stuck. There's a lot of cities started that way. Several have gotten out of the business, but several in our regions are still in the business. Here's kind of a list of our major infrastructure. So just a bunch of technical terms there, but it all adds up to enough infrastructure to serve about 2,200 electric utility customers. Just some photographs of what that infrastructure, that's a 3-phase recloser. Just in case you were wondering, I saw everybody thinking, gee, what is that? And I didn't know that. I had to have someone tell me that. It's not like I can look up and know all these things. There's that fabulous work crew that keeps the light on here in Newberry. It's also interesting, we only have 1 crew, and it's only 5 people. So we get in a storm event, we have high winds come through, and we'll get a call about, well, I saw a crew working over there on 5th Avenue. What other crews are you sending to my house? And the answer is, we're taking them one at a time, turning them on as fast as we can. Our one and only crew, if we're lucky to get a contract crew in here, we will. But it's one group of guys. They're very dedicated. They're highly trained, and they love working here in Newberry. Just all of our linemen are formally trained. When they come out of training program, they are card-carrying journeymen. It means they're as well trained as anyone in the world at what they do. It's a 3-year program to go from apprentice to journeyman, and then we provide advanced training and supervisor training and things of the like. Just a look at the equipment that the citizens of Newberry own that help us provide superior electric service. And we are a member of FMPA, which is where we receive our wholesale power from. So we are one of 13 cities that own 4 power plants in what we call the All Requirements Project. Outside of that, we also, the city of Newberry owns just a microscopic portion of a nuclear generating facility that's located down on Hutchinson Island near Miami. That is very low-cost power for us now. Back in the day, maybe not so low cost, but right now most of that debt service is paid off. So when people ask about being green, it doesn't get much greener than the nuclear energy. City of Newberry owns an entitlement there. We own a piece of that power plant. And we have a 24-hour contact number. Ask this question a lot. I see that the mayor shared it recently. We try to get this out as much as we can, short of hiring someone with a megaphone to ride around town, saying 855-892. But if you have any after-hours issues, power, water, sewer, that's the number to call. We'll get you connected to our 24-hour on-call personnel who will come out and take a look at your issue.
Mike, you think if we had a great big, like a car magnet made, we could maybe work out a deal with UPS, and we could put that on a UPS truck as we...
If only we knew someone, that worked with UPS, we might take a
Make
run
a
at that.
liaison, yeah, yeah.
We'll take a run at that, Mr. Mayor. I could have 6 sets of giant magnets made and applied to the appropriate vehicles running around town. Maybe that would help.
I need a little one for a Prius. You know, it's a little magnet.
Correct. So, Mr. Mayor, that concludes. That's a great idea. That concludes our presentation. And one thing I missed, and I think it's important to say, earlier today, I was around a bunch of first responders, and they were appropriately referred to as heroes in our community. I agree with that wholly. I'll also tell you that our utility workers, electric, water, and sewer, but particularly, and public works for that matter, but particularly this week since we're celebrating Public Power Week, our electric linemen are heroes. They get out in the worst of conditions. They don't ask why. They don't say, I want to sleep in. They don't say it's too cold, too rainy, or too windy. They go out and they turn the light back on, and they're my heroes for that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
And with that, I would like to offer the following proclamation. Whereas the residents of the city of Newberry place a high value on local control over community services, and therefore have chosen to operate a community-owned, locally controlled, not-for-profit electric utility, and as consumers and owners of the electric utility have a direct say in utility operations and policies, and whereas the city of Newberry's electric system is a valuable community asset that contributes substantially to the well-being of local residents through energy efficiency, customer service, environmental protection, economic development, and safety awareness, and whereas the city of Newberry's electric system is a dependable and trustworthy institution whose local operation provides many consumer protections and continues to make the community a better place in which to live and work. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the city of Newberry's electric system will continue to work to bring lower cost, safe, reliable energy to community homes and businesses, just as it has since 1910, the year when the utility was created to serve the residents of Newberry. And be it further proclaimed that I, Jordan Marlowe, Mayor of the City of Newberry, do hereby proclaim the week of October 3 through 9, 2021 be designated as Public Power Week, in order to honor the City of Newberry's electric system for its contributions to the community and to make its consumer owner, policymakers, and employees more aware of its contributions to their well-being and how it makes their lives powerful. And invite all Newberry residents, businesses, civic groups, governments, agencies, and other organizations to participate. In witness whereof, I have hereto set my hand this 13th day of September 2021 and attested to by the Clerk of the City Commission of the City of Newberry, Florida, Ms. Judy S. Rice. So be it proclaimed. Thank you, Mike, for that presentation. Okay, and next we would like to remember the September 11th Remembrance Proclamation. Folks, if you haven't seen the memorial that the students did on the football field this past weekend, they turned it into a video, shared it, but it made me extremely proud. The kids that did it, none of them were born in 2001. These guys were all born in 2006, 2007, and it's one thing to teach September 11th in a textbook. It's another thing to go out at 10 o'clock at night after a football game and put a flag on the football field for every victim who died that day. And to see 60 or so teenagers stand quietly in memorial at the end of the night at the top of the football stadium looking down, you can't get 60 teenagers to be quiet for anything. But it was a solemn moment. And so with that, I would like to issue the following proclamation. And I would absolutely want to thank Campus USA. They funded and sponsored. They made that possible for the kids to do that memorial. And I will always be grateful to them for making that happen. And with that, I'll offer the following proclamation. Whereas September 11th, 2001, terrorists hijacked and then flew commercial airplanes into the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center in New York, causing both of them to collapse, and the Pentagon in Washington inflicting severe damage. A fourth terrorist hijacked plane crashed into a field in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, when passengers who became aware of the attacks attempted to take the plane back. Whereas every year since, we come together in solidarity as a nation to remember the first responders and civilians whose lives were cut short by these acts of terror 20 years ago. Whereas that day and the days that followed, our country was united. Americans, no matter what race, background, or religion, we're all united in prayer and with a resolve to help the families of victims and first responders who were never given the opportunity to live out their full lives. Whereas we pay tribute to the first responders and citizens who answered the call to save lives with tremendous acts of courage with no hesitation. Today and every day we must remember to stand united. We do this with understanding, love, and respect for one another. Whereas it is our sacred duty to never forget the events that transpired on that painful day in our country's history. So future generations can be reminded that when Americans from all walks of life unite together, we are stronger as a country. Let's remember September 12th as well, when our nation was one. Whereas since 9/11, let us not forget the military men and women who have answered the call to defend our freedom. Therefore, be it proclaimed by the city of Newberry, Florida, that in unity we honor the lives lost when our country was attacked 20 years ago. We will never forget. In witness whereof I have here underset my hand this 13th day of September 2001, and it has been attested to by the clerk of the City Commission of the City of Newberry, Florida, Miss Judy S. Rice. So it is proclaimed. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, your commission likes to set aside time early in the meeting to hear from you. These are 2-minute public announcements. If you'd like to address the commission on any item you want to let us know about something that's going on, now is a great time to do it. If you have a more controversial item that you'd like to talk about, we have set aside a longer period of time. At the end of the meeting, you have 5 minutes to address the commission on any item, whether it's on the agenda or not. So if you have any public announcements that you'd like to let the commission know of right now, you have 2 minutes to do so, and we'd love to hear from you.
Good evening, Mayor Marlowe and Commissioners, Attorney Walker and Ms. Neal. My name is Lisa Darling, and I am a member of the Lifetime Youth Mentoring Program, and we are LLC, we are licensed. We have 2 members that came tonight, Ms. Teresa Larkin and Ms. Joy Ingram. We wanted to let you know that the thing is growing. We had 19 students today that we mentored. We helped them with their homework, and we have snacks for them, and the program is constantly growing. I was going to wait to say this at the end, but they wanted me to say this now. We still only have 1 computer that is up and running, and we're not knowing what's wrong with the other ones. And so if we can still get those fixed, and then we will have other concerns coming probably at the next meeting, because I didn't want to waste up my time. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public announcements?
Seeing none.
October 23rd?
Yeah. Mr. Mayor and the Commission, my name is Naeem Urched. I'm the Vice Chair of Opioid Task Force. Once again, thank you so much for your generosity on this. But I did want to mention that on October 23rd, we are going to have our official kickoff at Berry Park right next door. We are going to have several different speakers. We have a couple that are still to be determined, but I believe that Drew Smith will be there. We also have Jordan's going to be there. One of our Alachua County Commissioners, Mary Hullen's going to be there. Brett Douglas from KISS 105 will be emceeing for us. We're going to have bounce houses from Spacewalk. We're going to have 2911 cooking barbecue. It's going to be a nice event from 1 till 3 on October 23rd. Being that this is the Newberry Opioid Task Force, and you guys helped put this together, I think there would be no better way than to show solidarity and that our commission that put us together to actually be at this kickoff event. Because to be honest with you, it was because of you guys saying yes that this became possible. So it'll be great to witness not 1, not 2, but all 5 commissioners, and obviously our mayor is going to be there. Not leaving out our manager and our attorney and city clerk, but you guys are more than welcome, and it'll be great to see you guys out there for this great kickoff event. We're going to have raffles. We already have The Blend has given us $100 in gift cards. Joel's giving us, Coffee House is giving us gift cards. Villaggio's already giving us gift cards. 2911's giving us gift cards. These are going to be raffle items to the community. So it will behoove you to buy raffle tickets and enjoy an event with your family on October 23rd, 1 to 3.
It's right after the farmer's market. So you come to the farmer's market, get some fresh produce, hang out a little bit, get lunch from 2911,
October 23rd, 1 to 3.
Have a good time.
October 23rd.
Thank you, Knight. We appreciate
Did I
it.
say October 23rd, 1 to 3?
1 to
Berry
3?
Park?
1 to 3. Berry
1 to
Park.
3, October 23rd.
Any other public announcements? Okay, seeing none, that'll move us to our consent agenda. I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as it was published.
So moved.
I have a motion from Commissioner Martin, a second from Commissioner Farnsworth. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passed unanimously, and that's going to take us to the American Rescue Plan Act Funding Agreement Resolution number 2021-42. No, I'm sorry, that was in the consent agenda. Okay, it's going to take us to public hearings and ordinances, what we have all been waiting for. This is what's going to help Mrs. Darling on her request, approving the budget. Then we'll have money. So I am going to read a script tonight because no one trusts me to do this by memory.
Thank you, Michael.
Okay. And I'm going to trust Dallas to help make sure I stay on script and do this right, because we're going to work through items 13 through 20, right? All within this script, okay? All right, so the City of Newberry Commission hereby convenes the public hearing on the City of Newberry's fiscal year 2021-2022 tentative millage and tentative budget as required by Florida statutes, Chapter 129 and 200, and as advertised in the Truth in Millage trim notices. If any one of our audience is here for the purpose of contesting their tax assessment, a petition for adjustment with the Value Adjustment Board should have been filed no later than 5 p.m. last Friday, September 10th, 2021. The petition forms were available in the property appraiser's office. This evening, we will take a number of actions related to the adoption of millage and budgets. The final public hearing on these matters will be held on Monday, September 27th, 2021, at 7 p.m. in the same location, Newberry City Hall Commission Chambers. I encourage you, if you have not already done so, to get a copy of the agenda so you may more easily follow the proceedings this evening. Citizen comments will be taken following the overview of the proposed budget by the city manager and assistant city manager / CFO. City attorney will now present an overview of the truth and millage legislation, followed by the city manager and assistant city manager CFO explanations of the tentative and rollback millage rates. Mr. Attorney?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. In 1980, the Florida legislature adopted what is known as the Truth and Millage legislation, or TRIM as it's called. The goal of the legislation was to ensure that taxpayers were advised of the public hearings at which local taxing authorities' budgets and millage rates are considered and adopted. Each year, the property appraiser completes an assessment of the value of all property and certifies to each taxing authority the taxable value of the property within its jurisdiction. Each taxing authority then notifies the property appraiser of its proposed millage rate, its rollback rate, and the date, time, and place of the public hearing to consider the proposed millage rate and proposed budget. Once the property appraiser receives the information, he sends a notice by first-class mail to every taxpayer on the assessment roll. The notice contains the information from the taxing authority as to the proposed millage rate and the time and place of the public hearing. The notice sent to the taxpayers is what is called the TRIM notice. The TRIM notice lists what taxes were paid for the prior year, what the taxes will be if the proposed budget changes are made, and what the taxes will be if no budget changes are made. This information is listed for each taxing authority. The notice also lists all voted levies for debt service. The purpose of the TRIM notice is to provide taxpayers with sufficient basic information to enable them to participate in the public hearing process.
Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The fiscal year 2022 tentative budget has been prepared amid the COVID-19 pandemic and is the second budget that we have prepared during this ongoing predicament. We are still very much involved in response to the emergency. We are working hard to continue providing services to our citizens, to our residents, while at the same time keeping our community and staff safe. We are not letting our guard down as the virus is proving to be persistent and resilient. Nevertheless, life under this new normal goes on, and so does our budgeting. The presentation of the budget for the Commission's consideration is one of my most important duties as your manager. As mandated by Florida law and our city's charter, I am happy to present you with a balanced budget. During this year's budget process, the City Commission held 6 budget workshops to publicly discuss the budget for fiscal year 2022. The budget was prepared with a focus on the city's future, what we want our community to look like, and how we get there. This year, we began with a strategic visioning process to align our residents and Commission's long-term goals. The Commission clearly heard our community's desire for a focus on long-term infrastructure by funding expansion and extension of 2 downtown roads to alleviate traffic and to provide connectivity, investment in our water and wastewater infrastructure, and the expansion of City Hall to provide our residents a single place to conduct their businesses within the city. The Commission has again shown its commitment to public safety by funding a new Quint apparatus in the fire department, which will allow our firefighters to continue to provide the highest in-class service to our residents when they need it most. In addition to these investments in our future, the Commission has prioritized the hard work of our staff who make all these projects happen and who are constantly setting the bar high for local government. The Commission has once again shown that they trust and believe in our staff by providing merit increases, lowering the cost of dependent health care, and implementing a tuition reimbursement program. On top of all that, the Commission has embarked down a road to implement impact fees, the tool to provide future commissions for decades to come with the tools they need to continue to properly plan for the city's growth and our very bright future. This budget is funded on a tentative millage rate of 5.9999 mills. This is the 5th year in a row that the City Commission has not raised property taxes. The rate in the budget set at this hearing tonight is what will be advertised and is the highest tax rate the Commission can adopt. The Commission can lower the property tax rate in the final hearing if it chooses to do so. With the vision of the community, with the vision of the Commission and our community at the forefront, your staff has spent an enormous amount of time weighing the available funding and the many competing needs for providing service to our community. I want to thank the other charter officers, our department heads for being cognizant of the unique challenges that we face for presenting budgets that reflect the goal of reducing the burden on the city's taxpayers while providing the highest level of service. Dallas Lee, our Assistant City Manager and Chief Financial Officer, will lead us through a discussion on millage and the budget.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Commissioners. One of the requirements of the truth in millage legislation is to provide information about why the tentative millage rate is higher or lower than the rolled back millage rate. The tentative millage rate for the City of Newberry is 5.9999 mills, which is 7.24% higher than the rolled back millage rate of 5.5945 mills. The rolled back millage rate is defined as the millage rate which, exclusive of new construction, additions to structure, deletions, and property added to geographic boundary changes, will provide the same ad valorem tax revenue for each taxing authority as was levied in the prior year. The City of Newberry's tentative millage rate is the rate at which the City Commission has, through due study and consideration, has determined is needed to fund the municipal operations of the City of Newberry in the best interest, public health, and welfare of its citizens. The tentative millage rate is the same rate as has been levied in the prior 4 years. However, the trim process requires that a notice of tax increase be advertised when the current year proposed aggregate millage rate exceeds the calculated aggregate rolled back millage rate. The aggregate rolled back millage rate is calculated by dividing the prior year estimated property tax revenue by the current year taxable value divided by 1,000. The current year taxable value does not include new construction or annex values. For the 2021 tax year, the proposed millage rate of 5.9999 is 7.24% greater than the rolled back millage rate of 5.5945, resulting in advertisement of a notice of tax increase. The primary driver behind the lowered rollback rate is the addition of new homes and businesses onto the tax rolls. Mr. Mayor, the 2021-2022 tentative budget summary for all funds of the City of Newberry summarizes all revenue and other financing sources available to the city in the amount of $20,027,599 and reserves brought forward in the amount of $12,787,884. For total revenue and other financing sources available to the city in the amount of $32,815,483 and appropriations in the amount of $21,026,975 with reserves appropriated in the amount of $11,788,508 for a total appropriation of $32,815,483, which is a net increase from the amended fiscal year budget of $25,835,791. A large portion of this increase is attributed to the $3.1 million the city will receive in American Rescue Act dollars. The proposed general fund budget is $10,825,532. The proposed capital improvement budgets is $388,800. The proposed special revenue funds budgets is $4,196,318. The proposed enterprise funds budget is $16,219,765. And the proposed internal service funds budget is $1,185,068. Mr. Mayor, that concludes my comments on the tentative budgets presented to you at this time. I'd be happy to answer any questions about the budget.
Okay, do we have any questions from the Budget Commissioner Cole?
Good job, Mike, and good job, Dallas.
Thanks.
And that was only the 67th time he had read through that. That's why he was yawning, because he had it all, and he has it memorized. So, any other questions from the dais? Okay. I'd like to now invite citizens to comment on the fiscal year 2021-2022 proposed millage rates and proposed budget. Please come forward to the podium. Please come forward to the podium. We do request that each speaker try to limit his or her comments to 3 minutes. The hearing will continue until everyone who wishes to address the commission has an opportunity to speak. So this is the budget. If you have a question or comment about the millage rate and the proposed budget, now would be the time to do the millage rate if you have any questions about that. Leaving it at 5.99, haven't increased it in 5 years. Okay, seeing none. I will now close the public comment section of this public hearing. And I'll ask the Assistant City Manager to take us through any adjustments by motion to the fiscal year 2021-22 tentative budget.
Mr. Mayor, the document before you included in your agenda packet is the City of Newberry fiscal year 2021-2022 budget summary and includes the items described earlier. Any additional adjustments to this tentative budget and millage should be made by motion at this time. As a reminder, the millage rate that the Commission adopts now will be the highest rate the Commission can adopt at its final hearing.
Thank you, Dallas. Does the Commission wish to make any adjustments to the tentative budget or millage? If you want to make a motion to set aside $15,000 in ARPA money, now would be the appropriate time to make that motion.
I would like to make a motion.
Commissioner Mazon, you got your
Sorry. I'd like to make a motion to approve the opioid, $15,000.
Okay.
Move a just proposed tentative budget to include funding the Newberry Opioid Task Force with $15,000 using the City American Rescue Plan and Act funding.
Okay, I have a motion from Commissioner Mazon, a second from Commissioner Clark. Any comments or questions on the motion on the floor from the dais? So, citizens have any comments or questions on the motion on the floor? Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously, and that's going to take us to adoption of the resolution establishing fiscal year 2021-22 proposed general city millage rates. Assistant City Manager.
Florida statutes require that the name of the taxing authority, the millage rate to be levied, the rollback rate, and the percentage increase over rolled back rate be publicly announced. Accordingly, the City of Newberry City Commission has determined that a proposed millage rate of 5.9999 mils is necessary to fund the tentative general municipal budget. This is the same property tax as has been levied in the prior 4 years. The proposed millage rate represents an increase of 7.24% from the rolled back millage rate of 5.5945 mils.
Mr. Mayor and the City Commissioners, I'll read the Resolution 2021-34 by title only. The resolution determining and adopting the tentative rate of taxation on real and personal property and making the annual levying of ad valorem taxes for the City of Newberry, Florida, for the fiscal year 2021, 2022, and providing an effective date. The appropriate motion is to approve Resolution 2021-34 as read by title only.
Do I have that motion? I have a motion from Commissioner Farnsworth, a second from Commissioner Martin to approve Resolution 2021-34. Any questions from the dais? Any questions or comments from the citizens? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Attorney?
And now, Mr. Mayor, the next resolution before you is Resolution 2021-35, a resolution of the City of Newberry, Florida relating to the city's budget for the 2021-2022 fiscal year, providing for the tentative appropriation of funds of the City of Newberry for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2021, and ending September 30th, 2022, approving a proposed general city budget, setting a public hearing date, providing for publication of notice, providing for an effective date. Appropriate motion is to approve Resolution 2021-35 as read by title only.
Okay, I'm going to ask for approval of the alternate motion, which is to approve Resolution 2021-35 with the $15,000 adjustment as we discussed.
So moved.
I have a motion from Commissioner Martin, a second from Commissioner Maison. Any comments or questions from the dais on the motion on the floor? Seeing none. Any citizen comments or questions on the motion on the floor? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Assistant City Manager.
A public hearing will be held to consider the final millage rates and final budget for the general city purposes on Monday, the 27th of September, 2021, at 7:00 p.m., or as soon thereafter as the matter may be heard in the Newberry City Hall Commission Chambers, located at 25440 West Newberry Road, Newberry, Florida. Mr. Mayor and City Commissioners, the next 4 items relate to your utility enterprises. The City of Newberry establishes utility rates to generate revenue sufficient to meet its ongoing operating expenses. Staff evaluates utility rates annually during the budget process, and if warranted, recommends rates be adjusted. Staff utilizes models for developing its utility rates to forecast customers' electric and water consumption, wastewater generation, and anticipated expenses to determine whether rates will produce revenues which are sufficient to meet the expenses associated with providing electric, water, and wastewater services to our residents. Many of the city's costs to provide these services are fixed or have increased, such as personnel services, fuel, repairs, etc. At the City Commission's utility budget workshop, City staff presented the proposed rate changes, and the City Commission gave consensus to include those rates in this tentative budget. Residential electric rates are proposed to be adjusted by 2% for an average residential impact of $2 per month. Non-residential rates are proposed to be adjusted in a similar fashion. A reduction in the city's bulk power cost adjustment will result in an average cost reduction of approximately $1.50 per month. The net impact between the rate increase and the PCA difference is 50 cents a month to our residential customers. Customers were properly notified in their August bills, and the city will need to file additional reports with the Public Service Commission to inform of the proposed rate changes. And on your graph here, you'll see Newberry does offer some of the lowest electric rates in our area.
Okay, Mr. Attorney.
Mr. Mayor, I'll read this also by title only. This is ordinance number 2021-46, an ordinance of the City of Newberry pertaining to electric utility services in the City of Newberry to amend and revise Section 98-63, subsections 1, 2, 3, and 8 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Newberry pertaining to the energy charge, providing for codification of same, repealing all ordinances in conflict, and providing an effective date. The appropriate motion is to approve ordinance 2021-46 as read by its title only.
You'll have that motion. I have a motion from Commissioner Coleman, a second from Commissioner Clark. Any comments or questions on the motion on the floor, which is to approve ordinance 2021-46 from the dais? Seeing none, any public comments or questions on ordinance 2021-46? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Assistant City Manager.
Water rates are proposed to be adjusted by 4% in the consumption charge and in the residential customer charge for an average residential impact of 95 cents per month. This rate increase keeps the city's rates as the lowest residential rates in the area. These rate increases also work towards the Commission's goal of operating a self-sustaining utility enterprise. In accordance with the City Commission's policy, typically we try and make the rate increase commensurate with the Public Service Commission's published CPI of 1.17%. Unfortunately, we weren't able to make that this year. Customers were properly notified in their August bills of proposed rate changes.
Mr. Attorney, would you read ordinance 2021-47?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. This is ordinance 2021-47, an ordinance pertaining to water service within the city of Newberry, amending the prior established rates and amending sections 98-154 of the Code of Ordinances of the city of Newberry. Amending ordinance number 2020-25, repealing all ordinances in conflict and providing an effective date. The appropriate motion is to approve ordinance 2021-47 upon its reading by title only.
Okay, do I hear motion from, was that Commissioner Farnsworth?
Yes.
Commissioner Farnsworth, I have a motion. Second from Commissioner Clark. Any comments or questions by the dais on the motion on the floor? Seeing none, any public comments or questions on the motion on the floor? Seeing none. Are we sure that there are none? I thought someone in the audience told me that they were here to speak to water rates. If you're here to speak to the water rates, now would be the appropriate time.
I was more on the wastewater, but
Did you want to do it was on the wastewater? Okay, I just want to make sure you know when it's time. All right. Seeing no public comment, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Mr. CFO.
You're shaking it up.
Yeah. Wonder if you catch that.
Mr. Mayor, wastewater rates are proposed to be adjusted by 3% in the consumption charge and $1 a month change in the residential customer charge for an average residential impact of $2.08 per month. This rate increase keeps the city's rates as the lowest residential rates in our area. These rate increases also work towards the Commission's goal of operating a self-sustaining utility enterprise. And the primary driver behind this rate increase is the additional permit compliance requirements placed on the City of Newberry by the Florida Department of Environmental Protection. Customers were properly notified in their August bills of the proposed rate changes.
Mr. Mayor, this is ordinance 2021-48, an ordinance pertaining to wastewater service within the city of Newberry, amending the prior established rates and section 98-155 of the Code of Ordinances of the city of Newberry, amending ordinance number 2019-24, repealing all ordinances in conflict and providing an effective date. The appropriate motion is to pass ordinance 2021-48 upon its first reading by title only.
Do I have that motion?
So moved.
I have a motion from Commissioner Martin, a second from Commissioner Maison. Any comments or questions on the motion on the floor from the dais? Seeing none. Public comments on the motion on the floor.
good evening. My name's Mary Gaffney, and I would like to address the Commission and the Mayor in regarding to the increase in the wastewater charges, okay? We've lived in...
Is your green light still, is it still on now? Okay,
Okay.
just check.
We've lived in this town for just going on 3 years, and our water waste charges are just astronomical compared to what our water usage is. It doesn't encompass, our greatest use is in watering our lawn when we don't have rain, and my wastewater bill is double what my water bill is for the most part. And it's actually, between the combination, it's higher than my electric. It's my husband and I. I'm only two people. And it doesn't compensate for when, you know, my husband likes a clean car. He washes our car once a week, or both our cars. We water our yard when it doesn't rain. And I've actually gotten a graph from the city just recently, over the last 3 months. We've had rain every single month for May, June, and July bill. It was exactly the same, 12,000 gallons. When January, February, March, when we don't have rain, my husband still washes the car. I'm at 8,000 gallons, 9,000 tons. I actually had them come out and check the meter just last week because I really feel there's an issue. And I just would like you guys to address that. I mean, there's got to be something for when you water your yard and you mow, you know, and you wash your cars. There's just not enough of a differential, and you're just going to raise that rate even more. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate you coming up and sharing that concern. And Mike, remind me, there is an opportunity for residents to get a meter that differentiates between the wastewater and the, or is that an irrigation meter?
Correct, Mr. Mayor. We offer two things to handle the types of challenges that Ms. Gaffney spoke of. One is we offer independent irrigation meters. I'm not sure the exact cost to get a meter installed now, but if you get that meter, there are no wastewater charges associated with that. So that's one way to address this issue. The second way is the Commission's already taken action. We set a cap on the wastewater expenses. So if you're a residential customer, no matter how many gallons you use, your wastewater consumption gets capped at, I think it's 15,000 gallons per month. The Commission adopted this many years ago, and it protects people that don't have that irrigation meter that do want to use water for outside uses, water that wouldn't be returned to the sewer system. So those are two avenues that are available for customers like Ms. Gaffney to get some relief if all of their water, high water consumption and ensuing high wastewater bills are related to irrigation type uses.
And AMI is going to also empower the advanced metering infrastructure that will be completely rolled out by next spring.
Yes.
All the way across the city is going to empower the customer to be able to track a lot of these things and make choices and decisions and empower. So we hear the residents' concerns, and we think we've got three really good strategies to try to help address that. Do we have any other public comment on resolution? We're still on 2021-48, right? Yes. Seeing none. I'm sorry, Mayor, not here to parliamentary procedure. We each get 3 minutes, but you can't wait in another opportunity at the end of the night.
I just wanted to respond to the mayor.
Okay.
And to the city manager.
Commissioner Clark.
Comment.
Yep.
To Ms. Gaffney, one of the things that I heard is 12,000 per month, which is probably not right when you say you're an individual. 12,000 per month, something seems to be, maybe there is a problem with a meter or reading it or something else. How does it stay the same 3 months in a row with, I just don't seem like.
Well, I think one other thing,
that might be just something we look at offline and.
We'll go and audit everybody's house. I remember I did this 5 years ago. I dug deep into 12 different residents. I pulled years and we tracked it, and so we do offer audits.
You do.
None of the ones that I dug deep on ever revealed anything, but we do offer those audits to let folks know, if they have leaks and those, and that's where the AMI is going to come in and be very helpful.
Mr. Mayor, as Ms. Gaffney mentioned, we did send our water wastewater supervisor out last week, and he did check the meter.
Okay.
And I was going to report that we round our consumption to the nearest 1,000 on a monthly basis. So when you're looking at someone's average consumption, it is quite common. They would never use the same exact number of gallons, but when you round to 1,000, it's very common to see 5,000, 5,000, 5,000 successive months in a row.
Okay. Any other comments from the dais? Questions from the dais? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passed unanimously. Mr. CFO.
Mr. Mayor, during the budgeting process, the City Commission directed city staff to develop a funding plan to generate sufficient revenue to fund long-term capital improvement projects. Staff brought back a funding plan at City Commission's budget workshop on September 7th, and the Commission provided feedback to include those proposed changes in the FY 2022 budget. One of the identified revenue options was to increase the city's rates for solid waste. Currently, the City of Newberry offers the lowest solid waste collection rates in our area. This is especially true considering only one other entity offers twice-a-week collection. City staff proposes increasing the monthly rate for solid waste collection by $1.55 per month to $18 a month for twice-a-week pickup. Non-residential rates have been increased by a proportionate amount. These proposed rate increases will keep the city as the lowest cost provider in our area, and the increased revenue will be transferred into the city's capital improvement fund for investment into the city's infrastructure. Again, even after these proposed rate changes, the city will offer the lowest rates in our area compared with other solid waste haulers. Customers were properly noticed in their August bills.
Mr. Attorney, will you read Resolution 2021-36?
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor, this is a resolution of the City of Newberry, Florida, approving a new fee schedule for solid waste services to replace the city's existing fee schedule, repealing all resolutions in conflict, and providing an effective date. The appropriate motion is to pass Resolution 2021-36 upon its first reading by title only.
Thank you, sir. Do I hear that motion?
So moved.
I have a motion from Commissioner Coleman, a second from Commissioner Martin. Any comments or questions on the motion on the floor from the dais? Seeing none, any public comments or questions on Resolution 2021-36? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Attorney? No, sorry. Mr. CFO.
Mr. Mayor, Florida Statute 166.231 through 235 allows that municipalities may levy by ordinance a public service tax on the purchase of electricity, metered natural gas, liquefied petroleum gas, either metered or bottled, manufactured gas, either metered or bottled, and water service. The tax is levied only upon purchases within the municipality and cannot exceed 10% of the payments received by the seller of the taxable item. These tax proceeds are considered general revenue for the municipality. Currently, the City of Newberry levies a public service tax of 10% on fuel, oil, electricity, and kerosene, but not on water service. The establishment of a water public service tax was another option for increased revenue to fund the construction of downtown roads. The City of Newberry is one of only 2 cities in our area that does not impose the water public service tax. Staff proposes a tax of 6% be levied on the sale of water service, including irrigation, within the city limits. The average impact to a customer is approximately $1.48 per month, and the revenue generated will be transferred into the city's capital improvement fund for investment into the city's infrastructure. Additional clarifying changes have been made throughout the existing public service tax ordinance to address outdated processes and change in state law. Mr. Mayor, that concludes my comments.
Mr. Attorney, would you please read Ordinance 2021-49?
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor, this is an ordinance of the City of Newberry, Florida, amending Chapter 86, Article 2 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Newberry regarding taxation of utilities, amending Section 86-31 definitions, adding water service as a utility service, updating Section 86-34 related to records, monthly statements, and payments to the city, updating Section 86-35 regarding computation on basis of aggregate monthly sales, forms, and administrative rules and regulations, and adding Section 86-38 regarding penalties for non-payment or non-filing of the return, repealing all ordinances in conflict, and providing an effective date. The appropriate motion is to pass ordinance number 2021-49 upon its first reading by title only.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney. Do I have a motion on Ordinance 2021-49? I have a motion from Commissioner Clark, a second from Commissioner Maison. Any comments or questions from the floor? Any public comments or questions from the floor? Come on down. You can talk to on Ordinance 2021-49.
I must have been the only one that got this thing in the mail. I don't know. Okay, again, my name's Mary Gaffney. Again, our water is not the greatest in this town. I've had issues since we've moved in our new home. I did get some resolution where they came and cleaned out the pipes and stuff. I still get stuff in my water. We've added a whole filtration system. Our water is not great in this town, and yet it seems to be that you guys want to charge more for it. Fine, but is anything going to get done to improve it? I've been told that, you know, what needs to be done would cost millions of dollars to get some of the sediment out of the water. You know, we have a brand new house, less than 3 years old. I've had to replace plumbing pipes. I've had to replace filters. We've had to put a whole filtration system on the house. And it's just always seems to be the water issue.
Do you have a one of those instant hot water heaters?
We have a, yes.
That's the problem
Okay,
right there.
that cost me $400 a year to have that come out and have it cleaned.
Yeah.
Since
I've
we've been
researched that, and those instant hot water heaters are they're the problem.
Tankless systems.
The tankless systems. They cause the bulk of that problem. Everybody I know that has one of those.
Well, we
they've had to replace the faucets, because the city of Newberry has actually won an award for the best tasting water in the state of Florida for 5 years.
5 years in a row.
5 years in a row. And so if you don't have those tank lists, you have a much different experience.
Well, part of it was, we had a big problem out there, and they actually claimed, and they didn't have a way to clean out the pipes, and our house was the end one. And I did talk to the city manager, and they did get somebody out there and actually had to cut people's driveways open to be able to flush it. And it is definitely better since that got done. But, I'm just saying, the rates just keep going up about the water, Most towns, it's your electric. In this town, it seems to be the water. And I have to object, we are one of don't have a tax right now, and it needs to stay that way, especially if you're going to raise the rates. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate that. And Dallas, can you remind us, I know we look at this graph, and we look at our water rates in comparison to everyone else, and that we actually lose money in wastewater periodically from year to year.
We generally come very close to breaking even, maybe losing a little bit or earning a little bit. But the city of Newberry does levy the lowest residential water rates in comparison to our neighbors in Alachua County and Trenton by quite substantial amounts.
Okay.
And for clarification, the water tax does not fund the water system. It will be funding downtown road improvements.
And this commission has been very clear that we wanted to make sure that the money that were funded, or the revenues that were raised, were spent solely on the people who were paying those revenues. So, we built a budget that is based off of taking a little bit here, a little bit there, and so that we don't have to have big increases in any one area. And we've worked really hard to make sure that the people who are paying those revenues are receiving the service for those revenues. Any other questions, comments from the dais on Ordinance 2021-49? Any more public comments or questions? Seeing none, go back to our proposed move to approve Ordinance 2021. I have a motion from Commissioner Clark. It was seconded by Commissioner Mazon. All those in favor, let's do a roll call vote. Commissioner Coleman?
Aye.
Commissioner Clark?
Aye.
Commissioner Farnsworth?
Aye.
Commissioner Martin?
Opposed.
Commissioner Mazon?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-1. And we will move to, that concludes this first public hearing of the City of Newberry's fiscal year 2022 budget and millage rates. A final public hearing will be held to consider the final millage rates and final budget for general city purposes on Monday, the 27th of September, 2021 at 7:00 p.m. And that takes us to Commissioner Martin.
We're going to reread this in 2 weeks, so we can put this aside so we don't have to reprint it. Correct?
There are a few items that, like the resolutions won't come back.
Okay.
But we could just strike through those portions.
Okay, it's just a lot of paper I didn't want to waste if we could just reuse it in 2 weeks. I don't know. I'll leave mine here, but.
Well, I'm fixing to be cutting tender.
No, that's your problem.
Okay, and I'm right, we're on item 20 of tonight's published agenda, participating in Alachua County Solid Waste Municipal Service Benefit Unit, correct? Dallas, you're going to take us through that? Is this the second reading of Ordinance 2021-36? Do you have a presentation, or you want the attorney to just read it into the record?
Mr. Mayor, I do not have a presentation, but I'm available to answer any questions for the commission. As a reminder that this is a assessment that the county levies to fund rural collection centers and portions of the solid waste program, and the rate proposed this year is the same rate as levied last year at $20.47 per resident per year.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Attorney, would you please read ordinance on second reading 2021-36?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. This is an ordinance amending Ordinance 2020-22, providing consent for the entire corporate limits of the City of Newberry, Florida to be included in a non-ad valorem assessment for municipal service benefit unit created by Alachua County for the provision of solid waste management costs, providing conditions for the consent, providing for that the consent is for 1 year only, and providing an immediate effective date. The appropriate motion is to pass ordinance number 2021-36 upon its first reading by title only.
And do I hear that motion? I have a motion from Commissioner Coleman. Second from Commissioner Clark. Any comments or questions on the motion on the floor from the dais? Seeing none, any public comments or questions on the motion on the floor? Seeing none. Roll call vote. Commissioner Coleman?
Aye.
Commissioner Clark?
Aye.
Commissioner Farnsworth? Commissioner Martin?
Opposed?
Commissioner Mazon? Motion passes 4-1 with Commissioner Martin in dissent. And that is going to take us to 7 requests for voluntary annexations that are going to be in quasi-judicial. Ladies and gentlemen, when this board meets in quasi-judicial, we cease being a legislative body. We start being a judicial body, which means we have to follow certain rules. I'm going to explain those rules at this time. First, the chair is going to read into the record the ordinance. I'm actually going to ask the attorney to do that. There's going to be a lot of ordinances here, I think. By title, number, the applicant's name, file number, subject matter, decided there's an ordinance or resolution. Then we're going to explain the rules concerning testimony, and that's primarily that substantial and competent evidence must be met when the board makes a decision, and it shall state the following, and I quote, all public testimony will be taken under oath. Everyone testifying will be subject to cross-examination. All documents and exhibits shall be entered into evidence, and the giving opinion testimony is limited to experts. Closing arguments are limited to the evidence of record. Mr. Attorney, would you please read the ordinance in... well, we've got a bunch of them. Do you need to do these one at a time?
One at a time.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
let's start with 2021-38.
Happy to do so, Mr. Mayor. Just for the record, that was actually second reading. I announced it as first reading of 2021-36, the prior
Is it
ordinance
second? It's
of
first.
solid waste.
Oh, I'm sorry, back on
Yeah.
the solid waste,
Yeah,
yes.
That was the second and final reading of that ordinance. Now go to ordinance number 2021-38. An ordinance of the City of Newberry, Florida, annexing certain portions of unincorporated Alachua County that includes tax parcel number 01928-004-000 as more specifically described in this ordinance, as petitioned for by the property owner pursuant to Section 171.044 of the Florida statutes, making certain findings, providing for land use, zoning, and land development regulations, and the enforcement of same, providing directions to the clerk of the commission, providing a severability clause, and providing an immediate effective date. The appropriate motion is to pass ordinance number 2021-38 as read by title only.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney. I'm going to explain that we're going to stay in quasi-judicial for the following 8 quasi-judicials. I will not re-go over the rules unless someone new enters the chamber, and then we'll need to explain these rules all over again. And so if you are here to speak to any of the next 8 quasi-judicials, I'm going to ask you to stand so that our clerk could swear you in at this point in time. If you have any intention at all of speaking, if you could go ahead and swear in now, we'd appreciate it. Madam Clerk.
When you enter Maxwell, do you rest your affirm the testimony you're about to give the truth, the whole truth, and nothing? I do.
Thank you, Ms. Judy. Now let's establish if we've had any ex parte communications. Commissioner Coleman?
0.
Commissioner Clark?
None.
Commissioner Farnsworth?
None.
Commissioner Martin?
None.
Commissioner Mazon?
None.
Okay, I have none as well, but I am a non-voting mayor. We're going to follow the following presentation order tonight. We're going to hear from staff with an overview, and then the applicant, if the applicant's present, is going to be given the time to present with no time limit. And then we'll hear the staff's report along with the recommendation, also no time limit. I've not been contacted by anybody wishing to claim a third-party intervener status, so that's going to move us to public comment. If you're here to speak to any of these items, you'll be given 3 minutes to do so. And the applicant will have the opportunity to cross-examine. Staff's going to have the opportunity to cross-examine members of the decision-making body through the chair. Going to be able to ask any questions of the staff, the applicant, or the participants, and then we'll hear final arguments from the applicant and the staff related solely to the evidence and testimony presented at the hearing and introduced into the record. Then the city attorney is going to advise us at the first time here about the decision-making body, its applicable law, factual findings that must be made to approve or deny the application. Then we'll enter into deliberations. After deliberations, we vote shall be taken to approve conditions, continue, or deny the application. That's the presentation procedure that we will follow for all 8 quasi-judicials and staff. Mr. Wendy, go ahead and give us the overview. And if the applicant's not here, slide right into that report and recommendation.
Well, this is a presentation of all 13 parcels in 7 ordinances, and we can go through and we can go back to whatever slides you need to facilitate the presentation for your hearing. So we've got 7 different areas, and if we look at the first one, this is 3 acres by Morgan Lee Smith for RPM Auto, And that's the parcel that's located on the southwest corner of West Newberry Road and Southwest 226th Street. And the darker shaded areas are the city of Newberry, and the lighter shaded areas are still the unincorporated areas. So it shows you where some of these parcels are helping to enclose those enclaves so that we don't have as much property that's it. And then the next slide shows you the next ordinance, which is a 5.06 acre parcel that's owned by Robert and Barbara Carter. It's located on the west side of Southwest 282nd Street, approximately a half mile south of Southwest 95th Road, or as you can see, just to the south of 101st Avenue. And the next ordinance addresses two parcels totaling 12.26 acres. It's located on the west side of Southwest 226th Street, about 0.3 miles north of Southwest 15th Avenue. This is owned by Mark Halink for Halink USA Inc. And the ordinance 2021-41 addresses a 254-acre parcel approximately, owned by Keith Lerner for the agent for Farm Gelt, who's the owner, and is located on the west side of US 2741, or State Road 45 as we know it, and just on the north side of Northwest 78th Avenue. And this has two parcels, and this is owned by Alvin D. and Suzanne M. Holder for a total of 40 acres. It's located on the east side of Northwest 298th Street, which is County Line Road, and along Northwest 32nd Avenue. This slide shows you the 5 parcels that's the subject of Ordinance 2021-43. This is the Dudley Farm Historic State Park area. The property down on, you see in the green, is the park area, and the property that's actually to the furthest south on Newberry Road is already in the city, but the other 5 parcels that are shown there, outlined in blue, are in the unincorporated and are being requested to come into the city. It is located, as you see, on the north side of Newberry Road, and it's about a half mile east of Northwest 202nd Street. It's a total of 256 approximately acres. And the next one is for a 40.76 acre parcel that's located about 3/4 of a mile north of Newberry Road and about 3/4 of a mile to the west of Northwest 170th Street. And then this is owned by Leonard Emmel for the Emmel Family Partners. So all of those properties are part of these ordinances, and they total about 611 acres, but they're all properties that will, by annexing them into the city, will strengthen the contiguity and improve the overall compactness of the city and meet those requirements of the Florida statutes. We have provided notice to the Alachua County Board of County Commission, and we, according to the required notice procedures with the Florida statutes, they have been met with the advertisements as well. And the information has also been transmitted to the Growth Management Department. We don't have any responses at this time. There's been nothing coming back from them. And the recommendation is to approve each of those ordinances, and you can take them each as you would like. And if you need to go back to look at a slide for a location, I'm happy to take you back there. In addition, this is a request to establish September 27th as your date of enactment as well, so for each of those ordinances.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Wendy. Do we have anyone from the public who'd like to make a comment on any of these ordinances? Seeing none, we're going to cross over cross-examination, because I'm assuming we don't have any applicants here present, and you don't want to cross-examine yourself. Members of the decision-making body, do you have any questions? And let's take our conversation as a whole here, and then we'll just go through each ordinance and vote on. Commissioner Martin?
Wendy, you said that there weren't any comments from the county. Did they say they didn't have any comments, or we just have heard nothing from them?
We haven't heard, but these are properties that have been discussed and talked about, so we just haven't received anything that's saying there's any issues or anything,
Okay.
So we don't have anything in writing from them.
Okay.
But they have been notified, and these are parcels, a lot of the areas that have been discussed over time with them.
Okay. All right.
And we have a gentleman's agreement, I think, at this point, that they will let us know before second reading.
Yes.
If they have a problem. So this is first reading, so they have a little bit more time to issue an objection before second reading, so.
And I had one other question about the Dudley Farm property. Were there any expenses that the city is going to now incur by potentially incorporating that into the city that was otherwise, it was state property before that, right?
It'll still be owned by the state. It's just that it's annexed into the city and it comes under city regulations, but technically the state park is governed by the requirements for that park.
Okay. And I forgot when I answered that I hadn't had any ex parte. I did speak with Keith Jernigan. Isn't that what his name is? The 254 by my house. I did speak with him, but it was completely about process of annexing. I did tell him what I felt were the pros and cons, but it doesn't have any bearing on, and I have no dog in the fight with regards to the annexation. That's all I have.
Keith Lerner?
Lerner, excuse me, Lerner, okay.
Commissioner Coleman?
The 254-acre parcel, he kicked me out of there for hunting. So I don't know if that's anything.
Was that back in 1974?
No, that was while I was in fighting COVID. So, I don't know, but.
You were hunting and fighting COVID at the same time?
No, I was hunted first.
Oh,
during that time.
I was like, man, you tough man.
I kicked out, get back from the hospital and all that.
Yeah.
And all my tree stands and everything sitting there. This commissioner went and got it, so. So.
Is that going to affect your vote on this situation?
Not at all.
Okay. Mr. Attorney, you have any follow-up questions to either commissioners?
No, they've answered
Confessions?
the questions exactly as they should, and it doesn't affect their interest or the private interest, and it doesn't bias them in any way, so they're free to vote.
All right. Thank you, sir. Commissioner Farnsworth.
Exactly where is this property?
We can go back to the,
The fire tower?
Yes.
Going toward High Springs.
This is Mike's house right here. If you know where this is my house.
232.
This is 78 flashing light.
Okay.
And the fire tower is right here.
Okay. I never got the hunt out of it.
Sounds like we need some therapy, man. Sounds like we need some couch time. Okay, Ms. Whitty, would you like to make a final argument?
no, you have our recommendation.
Okay, Mr. Attorney, will you advise the decision-making body of applicable law?
Substantial and competent evidence in all of these matters.
Thank you, sir. Is Monty still trying to figure out where this is? You with us, Monty? All right. You didn't know that Tim and Mike were neighbors? Tim keeps calling code enforcement on Mike. There's all that noise and parties you got over there.
I thought it was the other way. Mike's calling on Tim because of the motorcycle.
I was supposed to be anonymous. Thank you.
All right, we'll enter into deliberations. If there are no deliberations, I'll entertain a motion to approve Ordinance 2021-38 on first reading.
Second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Coleman, a second from Commissioner Martin. Are there any comments or questions on the motion on the floor from the dais? Seeing none, any comments or questions on the motion on the floor from the public? Seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes unanimously. We are still in quasi-judicial. Mr. Attorney, would you please read on first reading Ordinance 2021-39?
An ordinance of the City of Newberry, Florida, annexing certain portions of unincorporated Alachua County that includes tax parcel number 02696-010-007 is more specifically described in this ordinance and petitioned for by the property owner pursuant to Section 171.044 of the Florida statutes, making certain findings, providing for land use, zoning, and land development regulations and enforcement of the same, providing directions for the clerk of the commission, providing a severability clause, and providing an immediate effective date. The appropriate motion is pass ordinance 2021-39 upon its reading by title only.
Do I hear that motion?
So moved.
I have a motion from Commissioner Martin.
Second.
Second from Commissioner Clark. Any comments or questions on the motion on the floor from the dais? Seeing none, any comments or questions on the motion on the floor from the public? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. We're still in quasi-judicial. Mr. Attorney, would you please read on first reading Ordinance 2021-40?
An ordinance of the City of Newberry, Florida, annexing certain portions of unincorporated Alachua County that includes tax parcel numbers 02696-010-007 1925-009-000 and 01925-009-001 as more specifically described in this ordinance, as petitioned for by the property owner pursuant to Section 171.044 of the Florida statutes, making certain findings, providing for land use, zoning, and land development regulations and enforcement of the same, providing directions to the clerk of the commission, providing for a severability clause, and providing an immediate effective date. The appropriate motion is to pass ordinance number 2021-40 as read by title only.
Do I hear that motion?
So moved.
I have a motion from Commissioner Martin, a second from Commissioner Maison. Any comments or questions on the motion on the floor from the dais? Seeing none, any public comments or questions on the motion on the floor? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passed unanimously. We're still in quasi-judicial. Mr. Attorney, would you please read on first reading ordinance 2021-41?
An ordinance of the City of Newberry, Florida, annexing certain portions of unincorporated Alachua County that includes tax parcel number 01756-000-000 as more specifically described in this ordinance, as petitioned for by the property owner pursuant to Section 171.044 of the Florida statutes, making certain findings, providing for land use, zoning, and land development regulations, and the enforcement of same, providing for directions to the clerk of the commission, providing a severability clause, and providing an immediate effective date. Appropriate motion is to pass ordinance number 2021-41 as read by title only.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney. Do I hear that motion?
So moved.
I have a motion from Commissioner Coleman, second from Commissioner Maison. Any comments or questions on the motion on the floor from the dais? Seeing none, any public comments or questions on the motion on the floor? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. We're still in quasi-judicial. Mr. Attorney, would you please read on first reading ordinance 2021-42?
Mr. Mayor, an ordinance of the City of Newberry, Florida, annexing certain portions of unincorporated Alachua County that includes tax parcel numbers 01834-004-000 and 01834-005-000 as more specifically described in this ordinance, as petitioned for by the property owner pursuant to Section 171.044 of the Florida statutes, making certain findings, providing for land use, zoning, and land development regulations and enforcement of the same, providing directions to the clerk of the commission, providing the severability clause, and providing an immediate effective date. The appropriate motion is to pass ordinance number 2021-42 as read by title only.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney. Do I hear that motion?
Motion to approve.
I got a motion from Commissioner Clark. Do I have a second? I have a second from Commissioner Martin. Any comments or questions on the motion on the floor from the dais? Seeing none, any public comments or questions on the motion on the floor? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passed unanimously. We're still in quasi-judicial. Mr. Attorney, would you please read on first reading ordinance 2021-43?
An ordinance of the City of Newberry, Florida, annexing certain portions of unincorporated Alachua County that includes tax parcel numbers 04262-000-000, 04263-001-000, 04263-000-000, 04272-000-000, and 04273-000-000 as more specifically described in this ordinance as petitioned for by the property owner pursuant to Section 171.044 of the Florida statutes, making certain findings, providing for land use, zoning, and land development regulations and the enforcement of same, providing directions to the clerk of the commission, providing a severability clause, and providing an immediate effective date. Appropriate motion is to pass ordinance number 2021-43 as read by title only.
Do I hear that motion?
So moved.
I have a motion from Commissioner Farnsworth, a second from Commissioner Maison. Any comments or questions on the motion on the floor from the dais? Seeing none, any public comments or questions on the motion on the floor? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. One last time, staying in quasi-judicial, Mr. Attorney, would you please read on first reading ordinance 2021-44?
An ordinance of the City of Newberry, Florida, annexing certain portions of unincorporated Alachua County that includes tax parcel number 04273-001-000 as more specifically described in this ordinance, as petitioned for by the property owner pursuant to Section 171.044 of Florida statutes, making certain findings, providing for land use, zoning, and land development regulations and the enforcement of same, providing directions to the clerk of the commission, providing for a severability clause, and providing an immediate effective date. The appropriate motion is to pass ordinance 2021-44 as read by title only.
Okay, do I hear that motion?
So moved.
I have a motion from Commissioner Martin, a second from Commissioner Farnsworth, just to let it spread it out around there. Yeah. Motion from Commissioner Martin, second from Commissioner Farnsworth. Any comments or questions on the motion on the floor from the dais? Hearing none. Any public comments or questions on the motion on the floor? Seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Well done, Commission. 7 quasi-judicials in 10 minutes there, maybe 11. Brian? I'm sorry. One last time. Say that one. We need to establish the September 27, 2021 as the date of enactment hearing for these 7 ordinances. Thank you. Brian, did we just annex Dudley Farm on first reading?
First reading.
The only reason I pause on that is that has been a goal of this commission for as long as I can think of, right? So I didn't want to ask before I ruined it. But one more time, we've been able to check off a box. That closes off a huge enclave and allows us to close out other enclaves in that section of town. So that happened relatively quickly. All right.
It wasn't,
You said you wanted it passed, Mr. Mayor, so.
is that?
I appreciate it.
It's passed.
There were other relations with Dudley Farm just a couple months ago. Didn't they apply to be on the National Registry?
The Dudley Farm
Was that
has,
printed?
Dudley Farm is now a National Historic designation. So there are only 2 National Historic designations in Alachua County. There's the Marjorie Kenning Rawlings, and now there's Dudley Farms. So with this annexation, Dudley Farm is solely, because there's always been one parcel that's been in Newberry and the rest of it has been an unincorporated. Now all of Dudley Farm will be in, after second reading obviously, will be in the city of Newberry, and the city of Newberry will be home to one of only 2 National Historic designations in Alachua County.
Mr. Mayor?
We just passed it. Oh, the National Historic passed.
Department of Interior, right?
The Secretary of the Interior sent us a letter. There will be, I've been working very closely with Dudley in the past month. We're going to plan a ceremony to unveil a marker, not a marker, like a plaque, to say that it's a National Historic site. I've been talking with Alachua County's Tourist Development Committee about getting some promotional materials. I think our own economic development should begin to advertise, because with that designation, Dudley Farms becomes Newberry's premier tourist attraction, if it has not already been that. But now it's all the way in the city of Newberry. Okay, thank you, Brian. I appreciate that. And Miss Wendy, we appreciate that. That's incredible. And that's going to move us. Miss Wendy, don't go far. You were just lingering back there, stretching around. We appreciate it. Let's move on to item 22, which is amending the comprehensive plan by adding a new property rights element as required by section 163.3177 of Florida statutes. This is second reading. Miss Wendy, do you have a presentation, or are you going to stand on the presentation made at first reading?
I can do either if you prefer.
I think
to not make a presentation, I won't, but
I think the presentation you made the first time, you hit it out of the ballpark, and we'll see. Let's ask Scott to read the ordinance, and then we'll see if the commission has any other questions. Scott, would you read ordinance 2021-34?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, this is an ordinance of the City of Newberry, Florida, amending the City of Newberry Comprehensive Plan to add a property rights element pursuant to section 163.3177 of the Florida statutes under the expedited amendment procedures established in sections 163.31842 and 3 of the Florida statutes, and in conformance with Sections 163.3161 through 163.3215 of the Florida statutes, providing for a codification, providing servability, repealing all ordinances in conflict, and providing an effective date.
Thank you, Scott.
Appropriate motion, pass ordinance number 2021-34 upon reading by title only.
And I have a motion from Commissioner Martin. Do I hear a second? Second from Commissioner Clark. Will you put, Amy, will you put the language up for folks at home so they can see what that language is? I know we've talked about it pretty extensively at the first one. I think go back 1, 2 now. Go backwards again. No, you had the language up there. There, right there. So basically this is passed down from the state. It's codifying what your rights are as a property owner. This is second reading. Do we have any questions for Wendy on this language? It's kind of putting into practice what this board has been really excellent at doing anyway. We have most of our conversations center on the rights of the property owner. Seeing no questions for staff. Okay, and I had a motion from Commissioner Martin and a second from Commissioner Clark. Any questions, comments on the motion on the floor from the dais? Public comments, questions on the motion on the floor. Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. That will move us to our agenda items. Resolution 2021-33, which is resolution rescinding Resolution 6-92, which means this resolution was passed in 1992. We don't often have the opportunity to go back in time and say that was a mistake, that we mixed personal beliefs and public beliefs, but we have the opportunity to do that here. Mike, do we have anything in the way of a presentation, or do we just have in the backup material that resolution?
Mr. Mayor, we have the backup resolution, and I believe a resolution repealing the resolution from 1992.
Okay, so Scott, will you go ahead and read Resolution 2021-33 into the record for us?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. This is a resolution rescinding Resolution number 6-92, which provided for a statement of the position of the City of Newberry regarding inclusion of the term sexual orientation in the County of Alachua Code of Ordinances, specifically known as the Anti-Discrimination Ordinance, now the Alachua County Human Rights Ordinance, repealing Resolution number 6-92 in conflict with this resolution and provide an effective date. Appropriate motion is to pass Resolution number 2021-33 as read by title only.
Thank you, Scott.
Yes, sir.
I think everybody up here believes that that everybody has a right to work for the City of Newberry, no matter what their race, religion, creed, orientation is. And I think it was wrong in 1992 to pass a resolution that would muddy those waters, make it seem like some people were not welcome in the City of Newberry or welcome to work with the City of Newberry. So I applaud the commission for recognizing that and having the courage to go back and say that was wrong and repeal that resolution. And with that, do I have a motion for Resolution 2021-33? Motion by Commissioner Maison. Do I hear a second?
Second.
I have a second from Commissioner Martin. Any comments or questions on the motion on the floor from the dais? Any comments or questions from the public? Any comments or questions from any of our staff members wishing to be a citizen for a moment? Hearing none. Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously, and that will take us to item 2024. Yeah. Item 2024, which are 2022 state legislative agenda items. Here's where we get to have a knockdown, drag out fight over what are we going to send Mike and maybe me, perhaps, to argue for.
Correct, Mr. Mayor, and I brought my whistle just in case.
Yeah.
Things got a little out of hand. So, Mr. Mayor, as you know, every year the state legislature goes into session, and of the many things that they take on during that session is the ability for communities to identify what's important for them, and those communities advocate and ask that our legislatures in turn advocate for communities. So every year we bring before you a list of things that staff has thought of. It's certainly not the all-encompassing list. We welcome the community to offer items and the commission as well. But we try to keep a pretty good list, listening to the things that the commission wants and then taking those ideas and moving it into a list of maybe 20 or so candidate projects. We believe that we can only advocate truly 3 to 4 successfully in a year specifically because all the items on the list are warranted. And one of the things, we have a handout and the things that we will specifically ask for direction from the commission to advocate as these are our lead projects. But many of the items still warrant and merit the city support. You know, one that comes to mind is legislation that takes away from a city's home rule. So I'd like to get specific direction from the commission on this, even if it doesn't make the top 4 projects list, that things that preserve our ability, things that Newberians think of as a way of life, that staff, we identify them as a check mark, as, hey, if those issues come up during the legislative session, by all means, advocate for Newberry. Contact an elected a representative, let them know, let the commission know that we should also reach out to our elected officials on those things. So 2 items in the recommended motion. Selected legislative agenda items for presentation to the state legislation in the 2022 session. That is going to be kicked off 2 Mondays from today at 10 o'clock at Santa Fe College. The legislative delegation for Alachua County will be holding its annual delegation meeting. I was contacted by somebody in from Tallahassee who said, hey, Newberry, the things that you want out of the legislature, it starts at that meeting. And he said, I know everybody and their brother's there, and they're making a pitch, but if you can't check that box, you're dead in the water, you'll never get out of the gate. So make sure you have your list, make sure you show up, you read it publicly, and you begin communicating with your representative and your senator as soon as you identify this list. So the second part is designate secondary agenda items that we support. Things, and you'll see on the list. Do we support Alachua County School Board in its quest to build another school in western Alachua County? Of course we do, but you know that doesn't bring funding to us. Do we support FDOT getting funding to do the Twin Pairs project through Newberry? And of course we do, but if we only got 4 projects to advocate for, would we bump a Newberry project for? So I provided a list. You all have the handout. There are I've got 3 pages, so here are the top 4. I'll buzz through them and then come back. Then there's 11, so we have 19 different ones. And I generally tried to put them in the order that I think the commission, very specific, project-oriented at the top of the list, more projects in the middle, and then as we get to the end, those home rule, local government, quality of life in Newberry types of issues that come up every year when in state legislature is in session. So, Mr. Mayor, I guess we could. I would ask that in your backup is the brochure we put forth every year. We will get very specific in asking for appropriations and grants, and recommend the commission pick 3 to 5 items for us to include in that brochure and to really go hard for.
Now, Mike, staff has starred the ones that you're recommending. Is that the star that we're seeing off there to the side?
Actually, and thank you, Mr. Mayor, for pointing that out. The star indicates projects that I think that benefit other entities, but that we might support. I just don't recommend that we make these on the top of our list of asks, because I hate to give up a potential ask on behalf of FDOT as much as I love them. I'd rather. They've
got pretty good lobbyists themselves.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly, Mr. Mayor. So the ones that I've indicated with stars are head nod that, yeah, if you get an opportunity, put a good word in for the school board, for FDOT. Alachua County has a request to do a meat processing facility in Newberry. We think that'd be a great complement to our environmental park. It would really help our ag community, especially small farmers that run cattle and things like that, and feel like it's becoming almost a past way of life where they cannot maintain their livelihood and compete with big cattle. So those might be some opportunities. Start with Mr. Mayor, and I've given you some foreshadowing in the past. Our top project for the last 5 years has been the wastewater force main on State Road 26 in the state legislature. It's $1.5 million project. The wastewater side, the water side was about $1 million. The city completed the water main some years ago, and out of our $1.5 million ask on the wastewater side, the state legislature appropriated $500,000. So job well done, Newberry. In our next year's budget, we propose to use ARPA money to complete that project, which is construction of the force main back to town. So we have identified for this year, and I believe for the next few years, getting appropriations towards our wastewater plant. Right now, we see that project as being about 1 million gallon per day treatment facility. We hope it's a regional treatment facility, but with no confirmation on that. We think the estimated budget on that is $25 million. And we think, given our growth rate and growth patterns, that we need to obtain somewhere in the neighborhood of $4 to $6 million in grants and appropriations to make it affordable for our ratepayers. So we are starting, my proposal is we start this year with a $2 million appropriation ask of the state legislature. We'll also be asking the Water Management District for funding in hopes of raising that. I'm going to start with a $6 million appropriation or grant mark to make that treatment facility affordable for our ratepayers.
And Mike, let me just pause for a second, because for folks watching at home, for new commissioners, we've got 19 things up here that we could support, but we're going to pick 3 to 5, and that's going to go on our brochure. So we're going to print off nice color copies. We're going to put them in folders, and then we're going to have legislative days in Tallahassee where you get about 15 minutes with all your legislators, and you have 15 minutes to pitch, and then you leave them some information. So if you leave them 19 things, they don't even look at it. And in that 15 minutes, by the time you're done small talking, you've got enough time to talk in depth about 1 or 2 of those 5 things. So it's kind of what we as a collective board want to focus on. So when we're looking at these 19, all of these are things we're interested in. All of these things are things we're going to continue to work on. But the conversation we're having now is kind of what goes on the front page. 1, 2, 3. Here you go, Representative Clemens. Here you go, Senator Perry. You want to help Newberry. These are the top 3 priorities. So we have been talking about the regional wastewater. So I think that, in my mind, is pretty high up there. The jobs growth grants, I think we've been talking about that for years, and I think we're poised to be successful at that. The city of Alachua got theirs 2 years ago at this point in time.
I believe so.
So, Commissioner Bard.
And Mike, is 1 and 2 kind of work hand in hand for me in my mind? Is there a difference I'm missing? Or can
correct, and actually I kind of got halfway there and didn't complete the thought. The top level is state funding from the legislature. That next level down is Water Management District. The Springs program and the River Grant programs are programs that are funded by the state but run through the Water Management District. So it's the complement of 1 and 2 that over the next 3 years that I think will bring in that $6 million worth of grants that we're going to need to move our project forward and not have a situation where we struggle to afford our debt service payment every year.
Okay. So I didn't want to cut you off there, Mike. I just want to make sure everybody was aware of the conversation that we were having.
Absolutely. And jumping up to the next list of projects, there's the meat processing facility.
And I should say that I have already committed to the BOCC that in any opportunity that I have, that I will support their efforts at bringing this meat packing facility. I think it's a great idea. Commissioner Coleman attended a community meeting we had with Florida Cattlemen's Association. I mean, there was if you're a big wig in cattle industry, you were at that meeting. They were there, and we got a lot of great feedback, a lot of good information about the challenges that project faces. But I think it's great to see a county commissioner look at what we're trying to do with the Ag Tech Park and staying an agricultural community, and buy into our vision of our future and try to come and help us make something like that happen. So it won't be on our promotional material list, but in any opportunity that I have to support what they are asking for, I'll certainly advocate that, and I would ask you guys to do the same thing.
So beyond the meat processing facilities, I've indicated to the commission before that FDOT has some programs, like I think they call them the TAP program, where they'll provide pedestrian lighting, highway lighting, and sidewalks. And we're going to have a full complement of sidewalks and lighting on State Road 26 as part of the Twin Pairs project. But between Newtown 1894 and Countryway Town Center, lighting and sidewalks are sporadic. So we've submitted applications to those TAP programs. They're in the works. Those projects have been selected. It just takes a long time and some patience, but that's what those project number 6 is. Electric generating plant, you've seen a couple presentations to restore that. Currently we're developing an RFP, so this project may not be something that gets high on the commission's list. Downtown Farmers Market project, estimated cost of $400,000 is high. The City of High Springs built a really nice one for about $270,000, but it was on property they already owned, so I escalated for land acquisition and cost escalation, worst case scenario. What else? Community splash pad, don't shoot me. That's a project that never seems to go away, and it seems to get more and more traction every decade, so maybe one year that we will really push to have a community splash pad. Rails to Trails, same thing. It's been around for a long time, seems to be getting more and more traction. And then schools, of course, is hugely important in Newberry. It's one of the many things that make us the greatest community in the state of Florida. But we'd like to make sure that our schools are continue to be nice and not overloaded. There are some more programs. These begin to get more nebulous and, at least in my opinion, about types of legislation that may be enacted that would negatively affect the city of Newberry. Mr. Mayor, those are the 19 projects we've come up with. There's certainly another 19 or 29 projects that we could add to the list, and like to get feedback from the commission as to what they'd like to see go before the state legislature.
Commissioner Martin.
Mike, and my fellow commissioners, I think it'd be probably advantageous to almost couch these as what's the ROI for the state. You know, pick a couple of projects. This is what it can do for Newberry immediately and just kind of the area at large, and just kind of more take a sales approach to it. You know, they're counting votes, they're counting impact, they're counting, you know, how they can sell it up the line. There's only a few people who really drive the bus up in Tallahassee. Chuck, or Representative Clemens rather, is sitting just outside that ring of influence, I guess you could say, in the upcoming session. So I think anything that we can focus on with regards to the wastewater treatment plant, I think is something that we can build a really good ROI around, as well as anything that could potentially serve as a catalyst for the Ag Tech Park. And I think there's a couple of projects on that list: the meat processing plant, the treatment center, and just show them, hey, we've spent a lot of money on a few of these things already, so it's not as if we're coming to you with our hat in hand for the whole thing, and just really sell it from that perspective and just kind of be done with it. I think we can have kind of an also ran asterisk at the backside that says, we know that DOT is wanting to do this.
Correct.
That would do X for us, blah, 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 school board, that sort of thing. Because the school boards really are the the lack of another school out here is really just killing us. It really is just killing us, to say the least. So that's my pitch.
To me, it's 1, 2, 3, and then support for meat packing plant, support for a school, but it's, I generally find that the more focused we are, the more successful we are. So I would even prefer 3 over 5, and because I agree with Commissioner Martin, 1 and 2, and with the manager, 1 and 2 are the same thing over a multi-year time period. So in my mind, it's 1, 2, 3. I might move 3 up just because I think we're closer to being successful on that one. We might be successful on that this year. And I would keep that focus there. Last year, the governor vetoed stuff that was infrastructure. So I think splash pads, rails and trails, I wouldn't even waste our time talking about that kind of stuff. I just think I don't think it has much of a chance of getting through this year. So let's keep it on infrastructure. Let's keep it on things that are core needs.
With you.
Okay. Head nods, head nods, head nods. Mike, you got your marching orders?
I got my marching orders, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And Amy, will you put that legislative session opening at Santa Fe on my calendar, please? It might already be there. I don't look that far ahead.
It's 27th, right?
27th. Yeah.
From today. And Mr. Mayor, I strongly encourage elected officials to attend if their job permits.
1, to see how it goes, but 2, I can guarantee Mike New can stand up in front of elected officials 1,000 times and not have the impact that you guys walking up, looking him in the eye and shaking a hand and say, we need your help, will have. So anytime I can get elected officials in front of elected officials, I think it's to Newberry's advantage.
What was the date? 27th?
27th, 10 o'clock in the morning.
And we will get it to everyone's calendar.
It's always good. I'm going to take the day off because it's where you start. But to have us as doesn't have to be all of us, but a united front saying, hey, guys, we're here this month. Okay. That moves us to comments. Commissioner Cole. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I'm trying to jump it right to. Well, you were looking at me expectantly, so I was just down there. You want me to go backwards tonight?
Yeah, go back.
I'll go backwards. I like to count down every once in a while. Mr. Manager, start us off.
Well, that's not backwards, Mr. Mayor.
On this side of the dais, back
Mr. Mayor, just briefly, I've got a meeting coming up with Alachua County. They have their 2022 ballot initiatives coming out. I think they're looking at some sort of an impact fee or road tax. I'll report more on it after we have it, but they're asking for the city to support some of their initiatives. So I'll report those as soon as I know what they're thinking. They've kind of previewed an infrastructure tax that would, an infrastructure sales tax that would go, half of the money would continue wild spaces, the other half would go to infrastructure needs of the community's choice, of the board's choice, including this board. So maybe City Hall, maybe that'd be a potential revenue source for that. Mr. Mayor, we missed on a couple of agenda items for tonight. This long agenda gave me the impression that we'd be here until tomorrow morning, crack of dawn sometime. So we did not get your planning and zoning board members back in, but we will do that at the next meeting. And we did not bring your fireworks ordinance for first reading. We plan to do that at the first meeting in October. And just by way of an update, we had meetings today with both the architect for City Hall working on some floor plan things. That'll be the next thing y'all see. And with FDOT to discuss twin pairs. Their next submittal is what they're calling their phase 2 submittal, which will be 60%. Once we get that in, they expect us, that's when it's really going to get going in terms of who pays for what, how we convey the First Avenue to them. So between now and January the 1st, I expect there to be a flurry of activity, things that are going to come in front of you guys for consideration related to the Twin Pairs project. Mr. Mayor, that concludes my comments.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Attorney.
Mr. Mayor, about 4 or 5 years ago, Dallas told me he would be very proud if I stayed on script for the budget matters, and I think I did. I actually
did great.
achieved it. First
Yes.
time ever. And so, Dallas, you should be very proud.
And I won't keep you on screen.
We'll definitely do that. And I will say, Dallas, that makes sure that we pass all of the budget and related matters in a very, very comprehensive and correct way. And we get audited by the Department of Revenue. And so that's a piece of important things that he does for us by providing that script. And so it's a very, very effective way of doing that. And I appreciate that very much as our assistant city manager and CFO. As the manager just stated, we have our Folds and Walker training on ethics. We added another city on in Williston. So if you want to meet your compadres and learn all about ethics from our group, we like to show off our younger people. And Andrea, she makes it very entertaining. Kirsten is going to, she promises to do the same thing. Andrea, I think, is having a baby today. We're not quite sure about that, but we likely will see some Facebook posts, and so we hope that mama and baby are doing well. And by November 18th, 2021, hours of 4 to 8 p.m. at our office, we'll conduct the training. We anticipate Aunt Andrea will be back from maternity leave, maybe just for this purpose, to make the presentation. I'm not quite sure, but those of you all that were there last year, I think, can attest that. And we had some commissioners leaving saying that was, I go to a lot of seminars, but that was most entertaining seminar ever. I was told by Kirsten that she's got some thoughts and she anticipates some special presentation at the training on the Gilmore Girls, which I'm not familiar with that, but she's got some segments that she intends to produce on that. So it promises to be a fun and entertaining. We'll have something for you to eat and make it a little lighter as far as ethics training, which can be a little bit of a tough subject. You go through for 4 hours, but you're required to do it. So that'll be November 18th between the hours of 4 and 8 p.m. And there is floating around the save the date, so be sure to put that on your calendars. Lastly, we have oral argument scheduled for September 21st, 2021. The first DCA has granted our request for oral argument. That's a good sign, and we're excited about that. As you'll recollect, the judge ruled against the city's position on this, Latchway, our position, and Archer's position, that the ballot initiative was defective, and so having oral argument, being the position we're in, is I think it's a good sign for our cause. We don't know how the first DCA is going to rule. We have a judicial panel. I believe it's Judge Jay, Judge Stephanie Ray. She's our chief judge of the first DCA, and then Judge Tannenbaum is on the panel. So that's our 3-judge panel. David Theriak is going to do the argument. He wants me to pretend to be one of the judges, and so we'll be prepping him over the next period of time between now and the 21st. And so we're going to put some more time in. David's going to really prep and be ready to go. We believe the attorneys have all met. We believe David puts us in the best position to argue the case in front of the first DCA on behalf of the cities, and so we've elected that he do that, and we'll prep him as best we possibly can. Mr. Mayor, if it is possible for you to allocate that time, we were planning to be there in person. We're shifting. We may do that by Zoom. I'm still debating whether or not we'll do that in person. So we may be going up to the first DCA in person, but maybe doing it by Zoom. We're not quite settled on how we're going to do that just yet.
I'll be there either way.
Okay, well, very good, very good. And that's all I had for this evening.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
That's exciting news. I think that this year, the ethics training, we're pulling off the escape room, so you've got to figure out an ethical situation to get out of the room and into the next room. Every year, we get a little more exciting. Madam Clerk?
I don't have anything, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Commissioner Mazon, you got any comments tonight?
Good.
Commissioner Martin?
I just wanted to compliment the staff in the budget process as usual. I think that this commission makes very good decisions when we are presented with the right information. So hats off to the staff for getting us where we need to be when it comes to that sort of thing. And I also, sometimes I sit up here and I wonder why there aren't more citizens that come up here during budget time. And sometimes I feel flattered and sometimes I feel scared to death. Because I don't know if it's because we're providing the value that they've come to expect and they just kind of trust our judgment. But if that is the case, I also want to compliment my fellow commissioners in kind of maintaining something that I feel like I helped start several years ago, and kind of continuing that tradition of providing the value that we've kind of come to have a reputation for. So my hat's off to everybody here. Thank you.
Here, here. Commissioner Farnsworth?
Mr. Mayor, I got a few people I'd like to mention here. There have been some recent deaths that have happened in our city, and I'd like to just kind of read their names and let's keep their family in our thoughts and prayers. First of all is Anthony Holt, who, he's been a lifelong resident, and him and his brother we kind of grew up together. In fact, they designed and built the railing that's around the municipal building right now. But he passed, sadly. A fellow nurse, her name was Denise Dalton, and she passed too. Another guy, Fred Kelsey, who's a lifelong resident of Newberry. He was a little older than I was, but he used to hang around the house. We'd play ping pong a lot together, and I'm gonna miss him. Another lady, Carolyn Elliott, lived over in Country Way. Her husband, Gene, he passed a while back, but she recently passed. And one of the things I remember about her, she had a very huge lighthouse collection. It was kind of interesting. Little Karen King, we know her and Raymond, and sadly she's no longer with us. And recently, Barbara Carter, of course, just recently passed, and we know her and her husband, Jess, and Jess has been up here and gave invocation to us, and he's the preacher up at the Church of Christ up there. And the last one I want to mention is Betty Lynn Brown. She was a lifelong resident here in Newberry too. She was very involved in the VFW and kind of spearheaded the auxiliary for a long time, and in charge of the Watermelon Festival for many, many years. And I remember her being on stage dressed as Minnie Pearl and auctioning off a bunch of stuff for the veterans, for the VFW. And she was always a joy to be around, and she brought a lot of happiness into a lot of people. I don't know the arrangements for Miss Carter, but Betty Lynn's going to be, her services are on the 23rd, or the viewings on the 23rd from 5 to 7 at the Catholic Church on at 500 Northeast 16th Avenue if anybody wants to attend. And just hope we can keep these people and their family in our thoughts and prayers. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Absolutely. Thank you for saying their names, giving us that recap. For Betty Lynn Brown, I just was talking with the Watermelon Festival. They're planning on honoring her this year somehow, some way. So community has been reeling. We've lost a lot of good folks this past few months in particular. So thank you. Commissioner Clark?
I'll caveat what Commissioner Martin said. Thanks to the staff. A lot of information's flowing. Thank y'all. There's a lot of, it's my second budget, so this one here was quite intense from the first one. But hope everything works out just like we've planned. I think it'll be a great thing. I want to say, number one, God bless our country and our military that may be deployed, whether we know that or not, they're deployed, and their families. Bless those that are sick with this COVID. And I look forward to going to our ethics training, Mr. Scott, with you guys. Well, I need it, so I missed mine. I missed it with ours. So, and I'd like to say one thing, Mike. You're talking about the tax situation with the county coming up. We had a dignitary in town today, as most people know by now. The governor was here, and as talking even to their staff with bringing him in, 30th Avenue was mentioned, how bad it is not to go down that road. So when we talked about an escape route and everything else for them, they knew 30th was bad. So I think it ought to be mentioned at our county to please come out and see this thing.
It's on an agenda to speak with their staff when we get together.
I got a Polaris we can ride. We probably do a front end alignment when we get done.
Yes, sir.
But if you get them to come out, please.
Yes, sir.
That's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Clark. Commissioner Farnsworth?
I'm sorry. One person I did forget was Teresa Keene. Once again, her and I kind of grew up together. She's like 1 year younger than me, but of course Larry Keene had the cabinet shop, and it was his daughter, and she was born and raised here in Newberry, so we're gonna miss her too. I think I've covered everybody. If I haven't, I'm sorry. Is there...
Can you say her name, Miss Judy, in the microphone? Daphne.
I think she's turned 100 years old 3 weeks ago, and we're going to honor her.
At the next meeting.
I cannot believe for her last night, but it'll come to me.
We'll have it by the next meeting. Commissioner Coleman?
I want to bring up the ones that are out there fighting for their lives. You got Cody, that is Commissioner Clark's son-in-law. He's over there fighting for it. There's a pile of them. I had a call from 2 sisters today at the same time. I don't know how to do those kind of calls, but and asked me if it was okay to me, I guess, say, give my testimony, because their mother had just been put in there. It seems like this is not ending, you know. It's terrible. Getting vaccinated or not, whatever, it's your choice. But I think I told a bunch here in Newberry I was talking to, I'd rather have those odds of 99.1% than that 1% that it doesn't help. So, but keep Cody in your prayers, and the rest of them that are up there at every hospital in America fighting, and that's what it is. It's a fight. That's all I got.
Thank you, Commissioner. And that was Mildred Griffith, who we were just about to honor with a proclamation for turning 100 years old. So I think we should go ahead and move forward with that proclamation, and we'll present it to her family. Thank you, Commissioner Coleman, for that. I want to add my praise to the staff for the budget. This has been the most intensive budget. Dallas, I know you take the lead on that, so thank you. We appreciate all that work. I share Commissioner Martin's. I go back and forth between being Really pleased that we must be doing such a great job that the city hall is not full of people that's complaining. And, you know, how else do you interpret that? What else could be going on, you know? I do know that this city will show up, this community will show up when they're not happy. And we've had this room full of people telling us that we're not doing what they want us to do, so choose to look as a glass half full on that one. Once again, I want to just say thank you to Campus USA for sponsoring the kids, to put up 2,000, just under 3,000 flags on the football field. That was a really cool, teachable moment, and I know that a lot of the community was able to go out to the football field and reflect on 9/11. You know, my grandfather, right up to the moment he died, never let December 7th go by. It was always a day that he stopped and remembered, and I want to make sure that we're doing the same thing for these upcoming generations that weren't born and don't know how much the world changed on that day.
They may appreciate a copy of that proclamation for their lobby or something.
It's a good idea. I had the pleasure of spending the 15th anniversary with Destiny Community Church this Sunday. And I know that all of our churches are doing really great things in the community and beyond, but on their anniversary, they had the opportunity to kind of recap some of the things that they've done. And, I have a unique perspective because as a teacher at the high school, I'm often asking for money from different people, as most of you up here know. And then as a mayor, I have occasion to redirect people who want the city to pay for things that I think are more appropriately handled in the private sector, funded through private means. And DCC's never once told me no. They've always been there. They've always supported whatever this community is trying to do, and I really appreciate that. But I got to listen to some of the things that I didn't know about, some of the work that they've done abroad, the work that they're doing with that BioTree Change of Life fundraiser they do at Christmas time, and they are accomplishing some really great things. And so I love having them in our community. I think that they're a great addition, and I hope they have another 15 years of doing exactly what they spent the first 15 years doing. I want to remind everybody that September 25th, we're having a welcome home to our Veterans Parade. 10 o'clock in the morning. It's going to have the same parade route that the Watermelon Festival Parade does. We'll have a lineup down at the produce stand. The parade will start at 10 o'clock in the morning. The lineup will start about 9 a.m. So if you guys can make it, we can ride together. If you need a vehicle, a Jeep, a truck, bed, a convertible, right, let us know. We'll either figure out with the fire station to get on theirs, and then after the parade, they're going to have a festival at Clark Plantation. So they'll have signs up to help you get there. But I just talked with Railroad Bob today, and he told me about all the different food trucks and speakers and games and stuff that they're going to have out there. So it looks like it'll be a good time. They got live music, 2 or 3 different bands that are lined up. So should be fun. And, Commissioner Farnsworth, again, I want to thank you for saying everybody's name. I think oftentimes the City of Newberry Commission is cast unfairly when it comes to COVID. I've never heard anybody up here ever say COVID's not real. I've never heard anybody up here deny that it's affecting people's lives, that it's hurting. I've seen everybody up here work to hand out food, to give money, to help feed people, to help folks make it through. I've seen you guys approve money to help folks get through, waive fees that when people are suffering. I think that you guys have encouraged staff to think as far outside of the box as possible, to the point where our Parks and Rec turned into a food delivery service during the shutdown to help small businesses. I've never once myself given any interview or made any public comment where I didn't end it by asking people to please wear a mask if they felt like the situation wouldn't allow them to social distance, or encourage them to get vaccinated if they think that's the right thing for them and their family to do. And I would continue to say that that getting vaccinated is something that we should consider. So I think that you should talk to your doctor. I think you should talk to your family. I think you should look at your personal situation, and I think you should have a real good reason not to get vaccinated if you choose not to get vaccinated. But I think that it's important that you have that conversation with you and your doctor, not with you and somebody on Facebook. I do draw the line at the government forcing people to do things. I think that's a problem. But you've never once heard me not encourage people to go and be as safe as they can be in the situation that they are in. So we all feel the loss of everyone who has died in the city of Newberry from COVID. I know that everybody up here, not least of which Commissioner Coleman, has lost somebody or had somebody that's been affected. And we're intensely aware that we are a community in pain right now. And we come together when we're in pain, and we work together to support each other. And I think that's one of the reasons why we don't have people in here angry, because we know that even when we disagree on something, it doesn't mean that we're going to be mean to each other. It doesn't mean that we're not going to still bring you over chicken noodle soup and make sure your kids have clothes and are fed. And all of those kinds of things, because that's what we do in a small town. We just take care of each other. So, and we do that because we want to do it, not because anyone told us we had to do it. It's just what comes out of our heart. And I think that's the most sincere way to go about it. And I hope that that's the way that we continue to behave in the city of Newberry. And that concludes my comments. Did anybody else have any final comments up here? Citizen comments. You have 5 minutes, maybe made it all the way through. Would you like to come and address the commission on anything you've heard tonight? Anything at all? I know Miss Peggy's going to say no, but you, she might want to.
I think Newberry has wonderful water, by the way.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Yeah. Okay, well, if the... Wonderful. Well, welcome.
You'll like it even better the longer you're here.
All right, well, if there are no more public comments, we are